Hello everyone, and welcome to a most wonderful game from round 7 of the 2018 St. Louis Rapid Tournament. It's a game between World Chess Championship challenger Fabiano Caruana and Linear Dominguez. Now, after you see this game, you will feel a whole lot better about yourself and about every blunder you've ever made in official games and, non-important games likewise. But this is something that doesn't happen very often in high-level chess. But before we check this out, I do have a nice photo challenge for you. It will not be too easy of a challenge for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel for quite some time now. I believe you will know the answer, but for those of you who will not know the answer, I will put a link in the description below that will feature a game by this gentleman. So who is this gentleman? Some time ago I have featured a game that he played against Garry Kasparov while Garry Kasparov was holding a simultaneous exhibition in Croatia. So if you don't know who it is, do check out the game in the description below. Garry Kasparov watched that video and commented on it on Twitter. So best of luck to everyone. Now let's check out the game. Caruana has the white pieces and he opens with d4. We have d5, c4, e6, knight to c3, and the knight to f6. So the Queen's Gambit declined. And this is the standard setup of the Queen's Gambit declined. Before I continue the game, I would just like to take a moment here and tell you a funny story about Linear Dominguez that doesn't really have anything to do with Dominguez, but it made me think of him. Now, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago, we were playing Croatia's Team Championship finals, and the colleague from the chess club that was playing board 1, he said that he was playing an international master in the next round and that he has to prepare, that he knows that he plays the Grunfeld. And then I was checking out some of the games and I found the game Carlsen versus Dominguez, and we prepared for his battle against the international master, with that game. And I found it with notes by Carlsen himself. So Carlsen explained all the lines, and then we really prepared for that game. I mean, we prepared him for that game. Prepared for like 3 hours, and then when my colleague finally faced the international master, he completely crushed him, but lost in the end, of course. But I mean, for the first 20 moves, my colleague spent like 5 minutes, and the international master spent like almost all of his time. And then the first move that we didn't have an answer for, my colleague blundered, and then the international master won the game. So just wanted to put that out there. Now let's continue with the game. We have c captures on d4, on d5, so immediately going for the exchange variation. Knight captures, and now e4. Knight captures on c3, b captures on c3, and now c5. Knight to f3, c captures on d4, c captures on d4, and bishop to b4 check. We have bishop to d2, and now bishop captures, queen captures, and black castles. So if you look at this position, okay, white does have a nice center here, but black does have a 2-to-1 advantage on the queen side. So all in all, white did allow black to exchange some of the pieces, and the position is now quite simplified. So if this was classical chess, I don't think white would ever go for a line like this, but in rapid, anything goes. h4. So again, a very nice move. b6, h5. We have h6, preventing h6 to be pushed by white, and then now g4. So really some crazy chess here played by Caruana. The king is of course never going queenside. It's very unlikely that castle's queenside will happen. So after the bishop is developed, the king will perhaps find sanctuary, maybe by artificially castling, but who knows. Bishop to b7, attacking the Caruana's e4 pawn. We have queen to e3 defending, and the knight to c6. a3, a very nice move. After this b5 pawn moves, queen to a5 check will come, and then the a3 pawn will be guarded by the queen, and also it doesn't allow this knight any knight b4 to c2 ideas. b5, we have bishop to e2, and now a6. Rook to d1, and queen to a5 check. Of course, you don't want to block this. King to f1 is played, and here is one of the very few occasions where f6 is actually the strongest move. White is threatening g5 here. You can't really allow this. If you play something like rook a8, continue developing, or even bring the queen back into the game, g5 is coming. And here after pawn captures, h6 is coming, and here white breaks open. the position, and it will be very hard to stop this attack. For example, knight e7, you can capture. After king captures, queen captures on g5, knight blocks, and now e5, threatening queen to f6 check, or even as the f6 square is guarded, queen to h6 check, followed by queen to h7 checkmate. So there is no way to successfully defend against this attack. So after king to f1, f6, blocking g5, but as now black did play h6 and f6, this really weakened the light squares around the black king, and this g6 square will be a very nice square for the knight to go to. Here we have rook to g1. The rook is no longer useful on h1. On g1, perhaps g5 will be an idea in the future, maybe even allow a knight sacrifice on g5. Knight to e7, we have d5, pawn captures, and now knight captures on d5. Caruana sacrifices a pawn here, but for a lot of activity. Queen to e6 check, king to h8, and now comes knight to h4. The threat, of course, is knight to g6 check. And here we have a very interesting moment. Dominguez goes knight to f4, the strongest move, attacking the queen, the bishop, and also guarding g6. So knight g6 check cannot come with tempo. Queen to e7 is played, and here black has to make a choice. He can go rook 8 to e8, attack the queen, and after queen captures on b7, capture on e2. Knight to g6 check, the strongest move, as it removes the defender of the rook on e2. So after knight captures, king captures on e2. Now you get knight back to f4 check, and perhaps they calculated it all the way to here. It's an interesting position because here you have to go to f3. You have to play a move with the king with tempo to kick away the knight. If you play king to f1 and give black time to attack, then white is completely lost. So it's a very nice position. I mean, you could easily find yourself in such a position. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this nice attacking idea for black. So how does black win here? For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent attacker. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen to a4 is the move. A very nasty idea, as the rook on d1 is under attack, but also queen to c4 is very deadly. So there's really no way to prevent both of these threats. Rook to c1 does temporarily prevent both of them, but then queen captures on a3 comes, and there is no defense. The rook on c1 is attacked, and also queen to h3 is coming. You cannot defend against both. So, after this queen to e7 move, it's a very rich position, so Dominguez finds a different idea. He plays queen to c3. We have queen captures on b7, and now comes queen to h3 with check. Knight blocks, and now knight captures on e2. King captures on e2, and now comes queen captures on g4 with check. Queen blocks, and now comes queen to c4 with check. You don't want to move the king to e1 and allow a check here by the rook, so you do have to play everything with tempo. Queen to d3, you attack the queen here. Queen back to g4 by Dominguez, saying that he would very much enjoy a draw here, as he is currently down a piece. We have king to f1, and now rook 8 to d8. You cannot move the queen, as the rook on d1 is already attacked, then you would lose a piece here. A rook, so Caruana is forced to sacrifice the queen here, but he doesn't mind, as this is still better for white. Queen captures, rook captures, and rook captures with check. King to h7, and now knight to e3. So here you have 2 rooks and a knight for the queen. Black is up 3 pawns, but I mean, if it was a classical game, of course, white would very much enjoy playing this, but in a rapid game where you don't have all that much time to spend, a queen is very powerful when the king is naked. So, queen captures on h5, we have rook to a8 attacking the a6 pawn, and now a sneaky move by Dominguez, queen to c5. A sneaky move because now if you capture, then b4 is coming with the threat of b captures on a3, creating a nice pass pawn, but also queen to b5 check, picking up the rook. So Caruana doesn't fall for it, rook to b8 is played, we have queen to c7, rook moves, now queen to e7 again. Caruana moves the rook, and now again queen to d7, and Caruana goes back, so there will be no capturing of the a6 pawn. f5, we have f4, not allowing f4. We have queen to d4 attacking the knight and the f4 pawn. Now you have to give up the f4 pawn, king e2, and queen captures on f4. Rook to c5 at preparing to capture the f5 pawn, so queen to h2 check, rook blocks, and now queen to h5 check. King to d2, and this is really, we could say, well, a very important moment in the game. Here you have to go king to f7. You have to allow white to capture here. You cannot allow this rook to ever come to c7. You have to guard the c7 square. So here after rook captures, you move the queen, and then the game continues. You keep on guarding everything, even if at one point you give up the queen for 2 rooks and white will be up a piece, you are still up 3 pawns, so you will be able to hold this to a draw. But here, queen to f3 was played by Dominguez, and this is now a completely lost position. Caruana played rook to c7, now the g7 pawn is under attack, there is no way to defend this. h5 was played. To prevent checkmate, we have rook captures, king h8, rook g8 check, king h7, rook 2 to g7 check, king to h6, and now comes rook to g5. Queen to f4 by Dominguez, rook 8 to g6 check, king to h7, rook to g7 check, king to h8, rook to g8 check, king to h7, rook 5 to g7 check, and king to h6. And here Caruana played a move well, he played king to e2. It's not a bad move, but there are better moves. For example, rook g6 check. Sorry about that. Rook g6 check here. King h7, and now after you push the king over to the corner, king h8. Now you play rook to d7. And here all of the checks are pretty much blocked. For example, queen h2 check. You move the king, queen here, and now white has a lot of threats here. For example, you can capture on a6 and threaten checkmate. To prevent checkmate, black would have to go all the way back, and now you simply pin the queen to the back rank, and now you can do pretty much whatever you want here. White would be winning here. But okay, it's a rapid game. Of course, it's very hard to spot it. King to h6, and here king to e2 was played, unpinning the knight. We have queen to e4, and here Caruana has to play something like rook to g2. He has to create some more threats. For example, after black defends this, keep the tension. But white is still better here, and this is still a winning position for white. But instead, here Caruana played such a move that you will not believe he played it. Here he played rook to e7. He attacked Dominguez's queen. And what's the idea behind rook to e7? The idea is after queen captures rook, then comes knight captures on f5 with check, picking up the queen. Seems very simple, and it seems like this will now very soon be winning for white. But unfortunately for Caruana, he completely missed that that queen captures rook is possible. Dominguez played this, and Caruana resigned the game. As, of course, knight captures on f5 is impossible because the knight is pinned. So here, now it's queen against the rook and the knight. White is now completely lost here. So yeah, like I said, after seeing this rook to e7 move, you will feel a lot better about yourself and about every blunder you've ever made, because this move was made by the World Chess Championship challenger, the person that will challenge Magnus Carlsen for the World Chess Championship title in November. So yeah, if he can do a move like this, so can you. You know, it happens to everyone. So yeah, and as nice as this game is, hopefully Caruana will bring some better cutlery for November. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank William Welsh, Stephen Flower, and Kevin Wisniewski for their contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. And a small announcement, I already made game 4 of the match Fischer-Taimanov 1971, so I will put a link to that in the description below as well, so feel free to check it out. I don't think I will be making a remake of this video because it's already 21 minutes long, and I really covered the end game well, and that game is really all about the end game, and if you're into end games, you're really going to enjoy it, so feel free to check it out. And the next video in the Bobby Fischer series will be Fischer versus Taimanov game 5. So yeah, thank you all, and I will see you soon.